At a work retreat in Dubai, my husband's boss smiled. Here, what you do in private stays private. I thought it was harmless until I walked into a rooftop lounge and found my husband whispering into a woman's ear. When I confronted him, he chuckled. It's just business etiquette here. Smirking, I held up my hand. Good. Then you'll understand why I'm selling the company shares I own in your name. His face turned white. I never thought my marriage would end in a foreign country. I never thought my husband, the man I built a life with, the man I trusted, would look me dead in the eyes and tell me cheating was just business etiquette. And I never thought I'd be the one to destroy his entire career with a single decision. But here we are. I need to tell this from the beginning because, honestly, even I didn't see it coming at first. My husband, Noah, and I have been together for 15 years. We met in college, started a business together, and worked our asses off to make it successful. On paper, it was his company. His name was on all the deals. He was the one making speeches at corporate events, and people treated him like a self-made genius. But in reality, I was the one running things. I was the one who handled finances, contracts, negotiations. Noah was great at talking, but I was the reason our business thrived. What he never fully understood was that his success wasn't really his, it was ours. And if push came to shove, I could take it all away. 2 weeks ago, we were invited to Dubai for a business retreat. It was supposed to be a big celebration for his company's milestone, and since I was technically on the board, I was invited too. Dubai was beautiful, expensive, and completely surreal. We were staying at the Burj Al Arab, which is basically a floating palace. Everything was gold-plated, dripping in luxury. It felt like another world. The first few days were normal, meetings, fancy dinners, networking events. I mingled with executives, sat through hours of corporate nonsense, and played the role of the supportive wife. Noah was busy, always running off to talk business with different people, but I didn't think much of it. Then, at one of the executive dinners, his boss Richard leaned in while everyone was toasting and said something that I brushed off at the time but would haunt me later. Here in Dubai, what you do in private stays private. People at the table chuckled. It felt like an inside joke. I forced a smile, not wanting to seem out of the loop. But something about the way they laughed stuck with me. That night, Noah went out with some of the executives for drinks. He said it was a networking thing and told me I should relax and enjoy the hotel. I was exhausted, so I stayed in, ordered room service, and fell asleep early. The next day, he was distant. Distracted. I asked if everything was okay, and he waved it off, saying it was just work stress. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? But then things got weird. Noah started taking calls late at night, stepping into the bathroom to talk in hushed tones. He'd disappear for hours, then come back acting normal. And then there was his phone, always face down, always on silent. I told myself I was overthinking it, that it was just business. Until the night I decided to go out for a drink. I wasn't even looking for him. I had spent most of the evening in the hotel spa, and on my way back, I saw the rooftop lounge. It was gorgeous, open air, dimly lit, with a breathtaking view of the Dubai skyline. I thought I'd grab a cocktail, sit for a bit, then head back to our suite. Then I saw him. At first, I thought I was mistaken. But no, there he was, sitting in a secluded corner, his back to me. He wasn't alone. A woman was sitting next to him. Not across from him, next to him, so close that their legs were touching. She was stunning, blonde, and dressed in one of those slinky, backless dresses that scream money. And Noah was leaning in, whispering something in her ear. She laughed. A soft, flirtatious laugh. And then I saw his hand. On her thigh. I felt my whole body go cold. I walked toward them, my heels clicking against the floor, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. Neither of them noticed me until I was standing right next to the table. What the hell is this? Noah looked up, his face perfectly calm. Not shocked, not guilty. Just bored. And then he did something that made my stomach turn. He chuckled. Relax, babe. It's just business etiquette. Business. Etiquette. I turned to the woman. You work in his industry? She smirked. Something like that. I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what she was. I looked back at Noah. He still wasn't apologizing. Wasn't panicked. He really thought I'd let this slide. That's when it hit me. Noah had no idea. No idea that I wasn't just his wife. I was his business partner. That the company he thought was his wasn't actually his at all. Because I owned 51% of the shares. In his name. And if he thought I was the kind of woman who would let this slide, he was about to learn exactly who he was married to. I smiled. A slow, cold smile. Good. I said, pulling out my phone. Then you'll understand why I'm selling the company shares I own in your name. His entire face drained of color. You what? I turned the screen toward him. See this? That's the sale agreement. Signed, sealed, and emailed to the buyer's legal team. Should go through by morning. He stared at me like I had just shot him in the chest. The blonde quickly slid away from him, sensing this was not a situation she wanted to be part of. Noah's hands were shaking. You're lying. I shrugged. Am I? His breathing turned shallow. You can't just sell the company. I own it, Noah. My voice was steel. You may be the CEO, but on paper, it's mine. And after tonight, I don't feel like sharing anymore. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. I leaned down, lowering my voice so only he could hear me. You really thought I'd be the kind of woman who looks the other way? Silence. Noah wasn't smirking anymore. I straightened, turned on my heel, and walked out of the lounge. Behind me, I heard him scrambling for his phone, his chair screeching against the floor as he stood up. I didn't stop. I had a flight to book. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad, no. That feeling had burned up the second Noah chuckled in my face. I was angry. A slow-burning, bone-deep kind of anger that sat heavy in my chest, keeping me wide awake. I stayed up watching the Dubai skyline from the hotel balcony, my mind racing through every possibility of what would come next. Noah wasn't the kind of man to take a loss quietly. He would fight. He would try to undo the sale. He would find a way to paint himself as the victim. And I was ready for it. By morning, I had 3 missed calls from him. No voicemails. Just silence. A part of me wanted to let him panic, let him sit in the mess he made. But I had too much writing on this to let my guard down. So I texted him, meet me in the suite. We need to talk. He showed up 20 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept either. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair a mess. He looked nothing like the put-together CEO he pretended to be. As soon as he walked in, he closed the door behind him and locked it. I didn't flinch. You're bluffing, he said. His voice was raw, desperate. You wouldn't actually sell the company. Not without talking to me first. I sat on the couch, crossed my legs, and took a slow sip of my coffee. You seem to forget, Noah, I don't have to talk to you first. His jaw tightened. We built that company together. I tilted my head. Did we? Because last night, I was just the wife, wasn't I? When you had your hands on another woman, I wasn't your partner. I was a side character in your little world. He exhaled sharply. It wasn't what you think. It was just business etiquette? I cut him off. His lips pressed together. I put my coffee down and leaned forward, lowering my voice. You don't get to gaslight me, Noah. I know exactly what I saw. I know what kind of men Richard and his executives are. I know what they do on these retreats. His nostrils flared. So what? You want to ruin me over one mistake? I laughed. I actually laughed. No, Noah. I didn't ruin you. You did that. He looked like he was about to explode, but before he could speak, my phone buzzed. I checked the screen. The text was from Jason Calloway, the buyer. We need to talk. Call me when you're free. Something in my stomach twisted. I looked back at Noah. He was watching me, his gaze sharp. He knew something was up. I stood. I have to take this. Who is it? I ignored him and stepped onto the balcony, shutting the door behind me. Then, I called Jason. He picked up on the first ring. Morning, darling, he said, voice smooth. Got some interesting news for you. I didn't like his tone. What kind of news? He exhaled through the speaker. Your husband is trying to block the sale. I gripped the railing. What? Yeah. He called the board, tried to convince them that you were making an irrational emotional decision, and that the deal should be paused until you both discuss it properly. I closed my eyes. Can he do that? No. You own the controlling shares. But he's making noise, and if he gets enough people on his side, this could get messy. I took a slow breath. I knew Noah would fight, but I underestimated just how fast he would move. What do I need to do? Jason hesitated. We need to make sure this deal is airtight. That means, before he could finish, the balcony door slid open. Noah stood in the doorway, arms crossed. Who the hell are you talking to? I didn't answer. His eyes flicked to the phone. Calloway? I said nothing. He took a step closer, his face twisting. Jesus, you really sold it. You actually went through with it. I stayed silent. Noah let out a bitter laugh, running a hand through his hair. You know what? Fine. Fine. You want to play dirty? I'll play dirty too. I narrowed my eyes. What does that mean? He stepped closer. You really think I don't have dirt on you too? Something cold ran through my veins. Because the way he said it, the way he smirked when he did told me he wasn't bluffing. I didn't flinch. But inside, something twisted. Noah wasn't bluffing. He was too smug, too confident. He had something. I kept my expression blank. Dirt on me? I echoed. Like what? He took another slow step forward, his smirk deepening. You think I never paid attention? That I never saw the things you did? You weren't just handling financials, were you? I swallowed, keeping my voice steady. Careful, Noah. If you're about to throw an accusation, you better be ready to prove it. His smirk didn't fade. Oh, I don't have to prove anything. But your new buyer? He might be interested in knowing just how flexible you were with certain contracts over the years. I felt my stomach drop. Noah had never been involved in the financial side of things, but he wasn't an idiot. He was right, I had bent the rules before. Not illegally, but I'd made some aggressive business moves to protect the company. Maybe even a few gray area deals. Nothing outright criminal, but things that, in the wrong hands, could be spun very badly. And Noah knew it. I forced a scoff. You're reaching. Am I? His eyes glinted. How do you think Richard kept this company in his pocket for so long? You really think he never had his own insurance on everyone at the top? Including you. That stopped me cold. Because suddenly it made sense. The way Richard and his executives always seemed so untouchable. The way people who tried to challenge them always ended up stepping down or quietly leaving. He had leverage. On everyone. Including me. And Noah had gotten his hands on it. I clenched my jaw. So what, you're going to blackmail me? Your own wife. Noah's smirk deepened. Why not? You just stabbed me in the back. Consider this payback. I exhaled slowly. You think you're in control here? His smugness faltered for half a second. I took a step toward him, lowering my voice. Let me tell you exactly how this plays out, Noah. You try to go public with anything, and I'll burn this entire thing to the ground before you can even think about picking up the pieces. You want to fight dirty? I was born in the mud. His smirk wavered. But then, to my surprise, he chuckled. See, that's the thing about war, sweetheart. You don't always get to see the next attack coming. Something about the way he said it sent a chill down my spine. Then, without another word, he turned and walked out of the suite, slamming the door behind him. I didn't hear from Noah for the rest of the day. But when my phone buzzed that evening, I knew it was about to start. It was a text from Jason. We have a problem. Meet me downstairs. Now. I grabbed my bag and rushed out of the suite. When I got to the lobby, Jason was already there, pacing near the bar. He was usually smooth, calm, but tonight, his expression was tense. I didn't even sit down. What happened? He exhaled, running a hand down his face. Noah's playing hardball. He just sent an email to the board and CC'd a few very important people. My pulse spiked. Saying what? Jason hesitated, then pulled out his phone and handed it to me. I scanned the email. And then my stomach plummeted. Noah had accused me of corporate fraud. In writing. And not just vague accusations. Specifics. Contracts I had signed. Financial moves I had made to push through difficult deals. Twisted versions of the truth, spun just enough to make it look like I had been embezzling money through loopholes. And the worst part? He had attached files. Real files. Ones I thought were buried. I forced myself to stay calm. These won't hold up. There's nothing actually illegal here. Jason's jaw tightened. No, but that's not the point. He doesn't have to prove anything. He just has to plant the seed. And now some very powerful people are asking questions. I inhaled sharply. This wasn't just an attempt to scare me. This was a full-blown attack. If people started digging, if the board decided to pause the sale to investigate, I could lose everything. And no one knew that. Jason leaned forward. We have two options. One, we go full offense. Shut this down publicly, discredit Noah, expose him first. Or two. He hesitated. I already knew what the second option was. I exhaled. We give him what he wants. Jason nodded grimly. Which one is it? I clenched my fists. Noah thought he could back me into a corner. Thought he could use my own tactics against me. Fine. Let him think that. I looked Jason dead in the eye. Option 3. He frowned. There is no option 3. I smiled. There is now. Jason looked at me like I'd lost my mind. What the hell is option 3? I took a slow breath, the pieces locking together in my mind. Noah thought he had won. Thought he had forced me into a corner. But he was forgetting something. I don't fight fair. I looked Jason in the eye. We don't just discredit Noah. We make sure he never recovers. Jason hesitated. You're talking about full annihilation. You sure you're ready for that? I didn't blink. Noah just accused me of fraud. In front of the board. If I let this go, I lose everything. My career. My credibility. I'm not just fighting for revenge, Jason. I'm fighting to survive. His expression hardened. Then let's end him. For the next 48 hours, I didn't sleep. I barely ate. I worked. I went through every file, every document, every financial record Noah had ever touched. And what I found made me laugh out loud. Because Noah, in all his arrogance, had made mistakes. Big ones. He wasn't just twisting my deals to look shady. He had been covering up misallocated company funds for years, hiding them under fake consulting fees, off-the-books bonuses. He'd moved money through shell accounts, siphoning just enough that it wouldn't raise red flags. I now had something Noah didn't. Actual proof. But it wasn't enough to just expose him. I needed him ruined. So I planned one final meeting. The company's gala was happening that weekend, a massive event where all the biggest investors, executives, and media would be gathered. I told Jason to make sure Noah would be there. I told Jason to make sure everyone would be there. Then I got to work. The ballroom was packed. Golden chandeliers, a string quartet in the corner, waiters gliding through the crowd with champagne flutes. Everyone was dressed in black tie, smiling, networking, pretending they weren't all sharks in expensive suits. I stood at the top of the grand staircase, watching. Noah was here. I spotted him near the stage, laughing, shaking hands. He thought he had won. He had no idea what was about to happen. Jason walked up beside me. Everything set. I nodded. Let's do this. The microphone crackled as I stepped onto the stage. Conversations quieted. I smiled, scanning the room. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to take a moment to thank you all for being here tonight. And more importantly, I'd like to thank my husband, Noah, for making this moment possible. I turned to him. His smile flickered. I continued. Noah, you've been the heart of this company. A true leader. A visionary. And most of all, a man of integrity. I let that word hang. Noah's eyes narrowed. What are you doing? He muttered. I ignored him. In fact, just recently, Noah reminded me how important honesty is in business. He made some very serious accusations against me. But, of course, accusations require proof. I pulled my phone from my clutch. Tapped the screen. So I thought, why not return the favor? The projector behind me flickered to life. Screens all around the ballroom lit up. Spreadsheets. Bank statements. Wire transfers. Evidence of his fraud. The room erupted. Noah went pale. You bitch. He lunged toward me, grabbing my arm. I yanked free. What's wrong, Noah? I thought we were playing dirty. Jason stepped in front of me, holding Noah back. Might want to keep your hands to yourself, buddy. Security was already moving in. Board members were whispering. Phones were out. It was over. Noah knew it. You ruined me, he breathed. I tilted my head. No, Noah. You did that. Noah didn't leave quietly. He was escorted out, screaming that I had set him up. He tried to spin it, said I had forged the evidence, that it was a personal vendetta. But the board had already seen enough. Within 24 hours, Noah was fired. His bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. And by the end of the week, he was indicted. I walked away with everything. And Noah? He walked away with nothing. People ask me if I regret it. If I regret destroying him so completely. I don't. Because this wasn't just about revenge. It wasn't just about what he did in that rooftop lounge. Noah spent years treating me like an accessory. Like a side character in his success story. He thought he could cheat, lie, and walk away untouched. I reminded him who built him in the first place. And who could tear him down. Now? I run the company. I built a new life. Noah will be dealing with the consequences for a very long time. And the next time a man smirks and tells me what happens in private stays private, I'll smile. Because I know better now.